This is the Game of Life. Welcome to the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast. I'm Gale Nelson, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Miami, and I am here with the one and only, a man who needs no introduction, Grant Cardone. And Grant, I got to just go ahead and give him something. For the two people in the world who don't know you, Grant Cardone owns and operates 7 privately held companies, private equity real estate firm Cardone Capital, with a multifamily portfolio of assets worth over $2 billion. He is the top crowdfunder in the world, raising over $5 million in equity via social media. He is featured on season
500, Gale, 500 million, 550 million.
Well, I'm sorry, Grant. There you go. I don't want to just short you $50 million, brother. Over $550 million in equity via social media. He's featured on season 2 of Discovery Channel's Undercover Billionaire, where he takes on the challenge of building $1 million business in 90 days. 10X we're going to talk about. But one of the things that's so special to us today, Grant, is the Grant Cardone Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to mentoring underprivileged and troubled youth in financial literacy. Grant, welcome to the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast.
Hey, Gale, thank you so much for having me here today, but most importantly, for the work you guys do every day at Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's our absolute pleasure. And let's just start with just family. You're a very successful businessman. That goes without saying, Grant. But your personal story is very telling. Tell me about your childhood experience in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Yeah, so I grew up in Lake Charles, single mother. My dad died when I was 10, Gale. And my dad was he was like so many families, he was the inspiration. He was the breadwinner. This is back in the 50s and 60s. So kind of a different time where, the man was expected, that's not to be sexist and not to offend any of the ladies out there, because look, none of us would be here without our mother. And I was raised by a single mother. When my dad died, my mom took over the helm, and she tried to be a mom and a dad. And part of what Grant Cardone Foundation is providing kids that don't have the dad in the family anymore. All the statistics go crazy, and they affected me in my life. Incarceration, I was almost incarcerated. I was almost killed, by the way. If I wouldn't have cleaned up my life, 3 of my friends were killed because of the way we were living life without direction and guidance. And my mom, as good as my mom was, she just could not possibly be a great mom and a great dad at the same time. It's just, you can't be both, and can't be a quarterback and the running, and the end and the tackle. You just cannot do, you can only do so many jobs. So I grew up in a place where I just didn't have the direction and guidance and a strong hand. So I went awry. I wasted 10 years of my life from 16 to 25. I became a daily drug user, overdosed multiple times, probably should be in the ground. At 25 years old, I just said, hey, I gotta change my life. I gotta turn my life around, and got off the drugs, changed my friends, and started putting my life together. I was broke at the time, had no money, had been fired from 7 jobs. I had a job. It was awful, dude. I weighed 100 pounds. That's about 60 pounds less than I weigh today. Wow. And I was in debt. And most importantly is I had, the community that I lived in knew I was trouble, or believed I was trouble. I'd given them nothing but validation that I was a troubled person. But mostly in my own mind, I did not respect or love myself. And that was a few deals ago.
Well, I tell you what, Grant, when we think about the power of mentoring and the necessity of mentoring, we're going to get to that in just a minute, but this is what it's all about. And I love your illustration. You can't be the quarterback, the running back, and the receiver. And with a name like Gale Nelson, you got to be able to navigate life. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And with that, Grant, Father's Day's coming up. I mean, I'm the father of 4 beautiful kids, or shall I say 3 bodyguards and 1 princess. And I know you have 2 beautiful girls, right?
That's right. 9/11.
9/11. And so with that, Grant, what's the best advice your dad gave you?
Well, because I mean, the best advice my dad gave me was how he lived his life. It was not what he said; it's what he did. He Number one, he went to work every day, and he was the provider of the family. Like he believed his job was to create success for the family, for the name, for the bank account, for where we lived, for our reputation. Like there was not a person my dad would pass and not say hello to, not because he wanted to say hello. He knew saying hello was vital to connecting community with the kid, his future. And I remember don't do anything to damage your name. They can take everything away from you, but they can't take your name away from you. And then when he died, I basically screwed that up. And then I've spent the last 35 years now trying to repair that. So that one, I clean up anything that I've done that's maybe out. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. So I had to do a lot of cleanup work. But once I did the cleanup work, and this is long after my dad was gone. I'm 25, 26 years old now. But my dad was still influencing my life. How he lived, how I watched him live in years of my life, literally has impacted me for the last 50 years, long after he was gone. And so two things I've done that my dad gave me. Number one, and one thing he taught me, and the other thing he didn't get around to teaching me. But number one was, hey, make sure you do nothing to damage your name. And the second part that he didn't have time to do, make sure people know your name.
I like that. I like that.
Because if you live a good life and only 2 or 3 people know it, well, you really haven't grown the name or the brand, right? And so I've really particularly the last 10 or 15 years, I've done a great job at growing my father's name.
And what I love about that, when you think about marketing, a brand gets its strength from repetition. And so when people hear Cardone, and they hear Nelson, one of the things we talk about at home, Grant, is the Nelson brand. I mean, just to make sure you know the name. You walk out of that house, you represent the brand. And I love that.
Yes.
But you talked about, Grant, how you didn't feel that you were special. You didn't value yourself, if you will. And so how important is it for young people to recognize how special they are despite obstacles or challenges?
Well, let me just clear that up. First of all, I always thought I was special.
Okay.
But the things I was doing every day, Gale, was a contradiction to me being special, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, look, the problem with the drug thing, the drugs that I started smoking weed when I didn't want to smoke the weed. I knew everything about it for me. And this is not a moral to the audience that's listening right now. I have zero judgment about anybody that smokes weed. But I will tell you this. I started smoking weed just thinking I'm gonna be cool with my buddies, Russell and Brian and my twin brother, Gary. I'm gonna be cool with them because they're doing it, so I'm gonna do it. I didn't feel good about it. Within a year, I was using anything and everything. You name it, I probably used it. The problem with the drugs was that every time I used one, I asked myself or told myself, you shouldn't be doing this. Well, the moment you do that, you're degrading yourself. I didn't need to be degraded by society. Life is hard enough, man. Life is so difficult. I could give you $1 billion right now, and life is still difficult. Life becomes almost impossible without self-respect, without self-love, without self-esteem. It becomes like you can't get anything. And that's what I did with myself. The drugs took me down a road that just, it deprived me of the most valuable thing in the world. And it's not money. Money is not the thing. I got money, the planes, the helicopters, all the crazy stuff. But it's self-esteem that is the most valuable deposit you can have. And I was surrounded by other people that were trying to make sense of the drugs they were using, of the time they were wasting. of the moments they're forgetting, of the bad choices that they were making. Let's face it, like on drugs, you're not going to make good choices, or you're not going to make the best choices because you're in doubt. So even with the weed thing, people tell me, oh man, weed's legal, man, it's not a problem, they're more creative. I'm like, look, if you compete with me and you got to stop to get a little buzz going. You got to go find the weed, roll the weed, burn the weed. Now you got to go clean it off your hands. And by the way, I'm going 85 miles an hour. You were going 85 miles an hour, but you hit a little bit of the sticky and now you're going 47 miles an hour. The only reason your speed dropped is because you don't trust yourself anymore. And if I could get that I compete with not to trust themselves, I would own the universe. Okay, because if I trust me and you don't trust you, I win the game because I'll take more action. And so that's where I went off. And I forget exactly the question you asked. I just want to just tell you guys out there, young brothers and sisters out there, man, look, if you need every competitive advantage, and speed and certainty is one of those things, and you cannot go fast if you're not certain. And drugs for me dropped all my certainty. Not having a mentor, not having the right mentors dropped my certainty. And the last thing I'll say on this is this. The problem for me, like I wanted a dad, Gale. I miss my dad so much. When I was 10 years old, I lost him. I signed up for baseball to find a dad. I signed up for football to find a dad. I signed up for a wood class. What was it? Wood making, some kind of class where you work with
industrial art.
Yeah. So everything I was signing up for, I think I went to PE class to maybe I'll meet my daddy there. And I was waiting for my uncles to be my dad. I had 3 uncles and I'm like, maybe they're going to show up. They didn't show up. And then one guy raised his hand and says, my name's Danny and I'll be your daddy. And he was the local drug dealer. And that's where it all went bad. So be careful. You're going to get a mentor, everybody. You will have a mentor. In fact, you probably have mentors, right? You're not acknowledging as a mentor that are influencing the design and direction of your life. And that's what happened for me. Mentors actually took me down the wrong.
Well, Grant, I tell you what, and I appreciate your clarification because you knew you were special. You were just doing the wrong things, hanging out with the wrong people. And our kids don't need to be fixed. Our kids have incredible potential. Our kids are resilient, but they need to be around the right people. Grant, I used to run the juvenile justice program, and these boys had 225 boys, 13 to 18, all of whom broke the law. The judge sent them right to me, and we put them in an environment where everybody had a solution focus. Everybody helped one another. All of a sudden, these young men started to graduate from high school, went off to the military and college. So it wasn't about fixing the boys, fixing the kids. It was about making sure they were around the right people and providing the proper mentoring.
100%. Like you got to get in the right environment. Okay. I can't big if I'm in a small park.
There
right.
You go.
So, and I was just with the wrong people. And if you go play the game with the people that don't have the character to make the hard decisions, look, it's easy to do all that bullshit. It's easy and it appears to be fun, but you got to be around the right people. I mean, you have to be around people that want and believe in more, not less, that aren't satisfied. And I was always hungry. When I went to a treatment center, the counselor at the treatment center on the way out, he said, I'll see you back here in about 3 months. I said, what? I ain't never coming back here, man. His name was Phil. I was telling Mike Tyson about Phil. Phil's like, Mike Tyson's like, Phil was really trying to help you. I said, Phil was a piece of garbage, bro. Phil was just another person that didn't believe in me. He said, because I wanted to write books, I wanted to be rich, I wanted to become famous. He said, because of all those things, because of your ego, Grant, you will be back in a treatment facility. You're a drug addict, and the idea that you can live a big life is going to get you back in this treatment center. He's like, guys like you never make it. I said, bro, I will never come back here. I will turn myself into a superstar. I will write books. I've written 8 books. Okay, it's been 37 years since I used any drugs. I've written eight. We built a great company. I got 13 million people following me on social media. Just finished doing a TV show. When people don't reach their potential, When people they dive in for their greatness, that's when people get depressed. I told my daughter this the other day. She's like, I'm so sad. I said, you're not sad, baby, you're bored. And the minute you get bored, you'll get in trouble. So boredom has been the biggest challenge for me. Not being around people like you that inspire and motivate and set that higher post, that bar.
And with that, speaking of team, Grant, from a sports standpoint, you've heard it, Mamba mentality, bringing that dog into a game. But now the 10X mindset, the 10X mentality. I see you smile. Every time I say 10X, you get a big 10X smile. Oh, that 10X mentality. Now, explain what that means to our young people, all our little brothers and little sisters, the 10X mentality.
Yeah. So look, 10X is about, it's not about, I remember my mom always said to me, she's like, family first. And I'm like, okay, but there's only 5 of us on a planet where there's 8 billion people. We're not going to win that one. See, my mom, half the stuff that my mom told me was right, and the other half was clearly wrong. Because who you were brought up with probably can't get you the community you deserve to live with. If the community is going to change, it's to go outside. And so the 10X rule was, I wrote the 10X rule 9 years ago. It became an international bestseller. People have used it all around the world to think about expansion. How do I expand beyond my own problems? The 10X rule is not about just me getting rid of my problem. It's about me getting rid of 10 other people's problems. It's not about me having enough money for myself. It's about having enough money for me times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10, so that I'm changing communities. My first business that I had got killed in 2008 because I only handled one niche. And this one niche got murdered in the global economic reset, which we have about every 10 or 12 years. You notice they seem to pull the shenanigan. You guys that live in the neighborhoods that are oppressed and suppressed and held down, y'all know what I'm talking about. This game is rigged. It's rigged to keep people comfortable, or with the idea or the fantasy of comfort. When everybody's like, oh, I just want to get back to normal. Before COVID, your life was terrible. Why would you want to get back to that? See, the 10X rule says never accept what you have, right? There's another level. And that level should not be a gradient. It shouldn't be like an incremental. It should be a jump. I taught my kids, when I taught them how to count, I said, look, you go 0. 0 is the first number in the numerical system. It's not 1. 0 is the most important number, by the way, because with enough zeros, man, you could change the world.
Yes, sir.
So 0 to 9, and then 10, right? I said, once you guys get to 10, once you learn 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you skip to 100. Don't go 11 and 12 and 13. You can't change your community if you keep just adding. And wealthy people understand this, okay? The wealthiest companies on this planet don't subtract, they multiply. And this is what households, particularly the communities that are held down. I'm talking about the Black community, the brown community, white communities that are held down and suppressed with the wrong information. This is happening all over the globe, where billions of people are being held down with wrong information. It's not about financial literacy. It's about financial deprogramming. You don't need to add and subtract. You cannot create freedom with a budget. You create it by expansion. People don't have debt problems. They have income problems, and they got big think problems. So the 10X rule is about, okay, I'm not going to just change my life. I'm going to change the lives of 10 neighborhoods around me so that I can actually change my life. Because if I change my life and the community across the street from me, they can't eat, they're hungry, they're scared, they're going to come tear my stuff down. So 10X is a massive thing, okay? You got a problem, get 10 of those. Don't try to get rid of one problem. Try to get 10 times that problem.
Well, I tell you what, we're here on the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast with Big Brothers, Big Sisters Miami with the one and only Grant Cardone, bringing that dog, that Louisiana dog, if you will, the 10X rule. Who let the dogs out? Grant Cardone. And let me speak of Louisiana. What is your favorite Cajun dish? I got to ask.
Oh man, look, I can pound some crawfish. Okay. I mean, anything with some crawfish in there, I can hit them boiled. I can hit them etouffee style. I can like Creole, man, you name it.
That's good stuff, Grant. And I hope everybody understood just the perspective. And that's a winning perspective. That's a championship mentality. The 10x rule. It's not about what I don't have. It's where I'm going. I don't. But it's subtraction. Let's keep adding. Let's keep growing. Let's keep expanding. Powerful message for our little brothers and little sisters. Grant. A couple more questions, brother, and I'll let you go because you've been so gracious with your time.
Hey, look, we should do, if I can help you out in any way, if I can help the community out in any way, we could do this more often. You want to do this, where people can start getting in a rhythm, maybe doing Q&A, like, let me know how I can help, because I do want to help.
Well, we will certainly take you up on that. And speaking of the Grant Cardone Foundation, your foundation supports mentoring and helping those who are underprivileged. Why is that so? Is mentoring so important to you, Grant?
Because look, because it's personal to me. I think that had my dad been alive and had the time to mentor me and guide me, I think he would have. I think my life would have been different. I think I would not have wasted 10 years. Look, I'm lucky to even be alive today. Like there's I don't know where the intervention happened, but somewhere along the way, somebody kept waking me up a little bit. When I could have easily overdosed or ended up in prison or ended up dead. So I know that if you look at the facts, the statistics say when there's no dad in the household, incarceration rates go up 6 times, suicide rates 12 times, drug addiction goes up like 8 or 9 times, school grades drop like by 90%. Like there's something about having. And just because there's a dad there, don't mean there's a dad there, by the way. And again, this is not something against women, right? Like there needs to be a man, the physical, whatever that is, whatever a man brings to the game. And I was raised by a woman, 2 sisters that took care of me. Like I admire women. They're freaking amazing. None of us would be here without one. But there's something about having a man, a strong mentor in the neighborhood that people respect, a guide, an example. And that's what I'm hoping to do with my life now, just be an example of what's possible.
Well, you're making it happen, brother, and you're doing it. Grant, I met my dad in an airport. I met him at SFO, San Francisco International, when I was 18 years old. Walking in the airport, thousands of people. I looked to my left, is that my dad? I looked to my right. I hope that's not my dad. And then boom, there he was. Parents divorced when I was 2 years old. And so I'm the man I am today. I'm the father I am today because of who my dad wasn't. So it was his example, his poor example, that empowers me to be the dad I am today. And so when I'm at my daughter's flag football game, or at my daughter Alexis, my son Gale, or Brandon or Jordan's games and going to school, I mean, it's a testament to the power of mentoring. And I'd learned the fire that burns inside of me, Grant, as a daddy. I mean, I will stop traffic from my kids. It's all because of what my dad wasn't there. And that, as a kid, I used to cry on those. Remember those old school Kodak and Polaroid commercials? I used to cry watching those, Grant. But I tell you what, that's why I run Big Brothers Big Sisters, because there's too many kids who don't have that positive influence consistent in their life.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I love that you took the, first mentoring, that you're like, I'm not going to be that guy. And for my dad, look, my dad didn't do anything wrong except die. And I have to learn from him. I'm like, oh, wow, himself 52, his heart blows up in his chest. He was stressed out, freaked, probably, who knows what was going on. Eating fried every day like we grew up in Louisiana, like all of us grew up like that. So I'm having all that. My dad paid off the house, paid off the cars, and my mom had to sell the house the following week. So I looked at that and said, okay, wait, maybe that house thing's not a good deal. Why is my mom having to unload the dream house a week after my dad died? So that's where I came up with, bro, you don't need a house. You need money. You need assets. You need assets that pay you. So like I kind of changed some things that my dad did. I didn't go out and buy a house first. I went and built a business first. How many people do you know in America, man? They think the house is a dream. The house, buying a house, when you're on the come up, and the first thing you do is you go out and buy a house, You should be investing that money in yourself and a business, not in a house with a mortgage that sticks you in a location. This is how they stick people in community, and they fixate them in one place and they can't go change the world. So I have done very similar to what you did, learn from the mistakes my dad made. And my dad would do that, by the way. He would not think that I'm being negative to him because I said, hey, I'm gonna pick up and I'm gonna break the cycle, and I'm gonna change the game for maybe what he started to learn and didn't quite, get beyond.
Well, Grant, I tell you what, speaking of assets and establishing yourself, the last question I have for you today, brother. Undercover billionaire. I mean, I tell you, my wife, Chantel, is a big fan, so no doubt about that. And, it talks about how you make it work and how you start a business, I think, 90 days, despite challenges and with all these obstacles in your way. So with that 10X mentality in mind, what advice do you have for the little brothers and little sisters out there who want to be an entrepreneur, who want to start a business one day, who want to be a billionaire? What's your advice to them?
Yeah. So look, number one, you can be. I'm proof you can be. I'm telling you, I know you don't have to be Kanye, be a ball player. You don't have to, there's other ways to do it. In fact, you got a better chance of being me than you have me. Okay. Like anybody can be a business person. Male, female, young. They got kids out there on YouTube entrepreneurs making millions of dollars a year. Now, whether they can go to the next level, I don't know, but I know this. I did that show Undercover Billionaires on Discovery every Wednesday night. Basically, they dropped me off in a town I've never been to, Pueblo, Colorado. I did not know I was going there. I shaved my head. I literally don't have any hair. I'm not all pretty like I am right now. And I cannot use my name because people ask me all the time, dude, yeah, it's great you got money, and you're Grant Cardone, so it's easy to be successful. They said, what number one question I get, Gale, is if you didn't have any money and you didn't have your name, and that's what that show is. In 90 days with no money, and I can't use my name, I've never been to the marketplace, I cannot use my friends, I can't call you, Gale, and say, help me out. If I get discovered, I can't use the deal, and I got to build $1 million business in 90 days. Okay. Well, when Discovery asked me if I could do this, I said, yeah, I can do this. When and where? Let's go. And by the way, I'll bet you guys at Discovery $1 million in cash, $1 million in cash. And I'll give everybody on the crew a new car, pull it off. That's how confident. No money, 90 days, and I can't use my name. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do a $10 million business, not a $1 million business.
My goodness.
And that was before COVID happened. COVID happened, and I had to do this. I almost cursed. I had to do this during COVID. So if you guys hook into it, man, it's on Discovery Plus. You can watch the whole 13 and see what I produced. 2 women do it. A guy named Glenn Stearns do it. And I'll just tell out there, big brothers and big sisters, little brothers and little sisters, I end up doing more than the other 3 did combined.
1 million to 10 million. You 10x'd it. You 10x'd it.
I know. I got the strategy. I know strategy. Look, you can have a passion, you can have the why, but you got to have a strategy. If you think small, you end up with less than small. If you think big and go big and have a strategy for big, you're still going to end up with less than big, but you're going to end up with way more than just tiny and just getting by.
Well, Grant, it has been my absolute pleasure. The first of many, I hope, conversations with you. Thank you, Grant, the Grant Cardone Foundation.
I got Annie with me right here. I said, Annie, make sure we do this more often, okay?
Well, Annie, you heard it here live with Grant Cardone, the Grant Cardone Foundation. Love you saying about big, because at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we only do it big. In the game of life, everybody makes the team, but how you play is up to you. 10X is the way to go. Grant, thank you, brother, for your time.
Let's 10X Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We're going to 10X that.
Let's
do some stuff together, all right?
You got it, brother. Have a great day, Grant.
Thanks, Gale.
Take care, brother. This is The Game of Life.